Welcome to the KiDDS Biz Podcast, your go-to source for unlocking the secrets to success in orthodontics and pediatric dentistry. Each episode, we bring you expert guests who share innovative strategies and insider tips to help your practice thrive. Whether you're looking to enhance patient care, boost your marketing, or stay ahead of industry trends, we've got you covered. Join us on this exciting journey to elevate your practice and make a lasting impact in the lives of your young patients. Let's dive in.
Well, here we are in our fourth episode of the KiDDS Biz Podcast, Dr. Ashley. How are you?
Yeah, I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, we've got Kevin Thomas today, and I'm going to read his bio, and I'm really excited about what he has to say, because we're going to get into a lot of different topics that I think is perfect for the ortho-pedo joint practice, or when they're working together. And I think we're going to be able to talk through a lot of different stuff today. But so Kevin, Kevin, say hey before I start reading your bio.
Hello, everybody. Kevin Thomas, down in West Palm Beach, Florida.
There we go. Well, we're glad to have you.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You've got the awesome floral shirt. That's perfect. This time of year, we can't wear those here in Omaha. Well, so for everybody listening and watching, Kevin has spent his entire professional career in the dental industry, beginning with Johnson & Johnson Dental Products in 1982. He remained with the company through its sale to Dentsply International in 1989. At Dentsply, Kevin headed the Koch Endodontic Business Unit and later served as the national sales manager for Dentsply Koch. And then in 1997, he and some of his partners took the helm at Omni Oral Pharmaceuticals, and that's where Kevin served as co-CEO for this oral care prevention business, focusing on product development and marketing. In 2006, Omni was sold to the 3M company, and Kevin served as global prevention business team leader for 3M until 2008, when he took on a part-time role as the 3M industry relations manager. Kevin then served as the executive director for the Dental Trade Alliance Foundation during this period. And the Dental Trade Alliance Foundation focuses on access to oral care for vulnerable populations. Kevin then also served on the board and eventually board chairman of the Children's Dental Health Project. He currently serves the American Academy of Pediatric Dentistry Foundation Development Committee and the Medicaid, Medicare, CHIP Services Dental Association. His current role is also as the managing member of Elevate Oral Care, which is how I met him, and he leads preventative care product development for new and unique solutions to turn the tide of the battle against destructive oral health diseases. So
that was a long bio.
Yeah.
You've been busy, Kevin.
You prefer it to be shorter because the longer it is, the older you are.
Well, coming in from the ortho side, I recognize some of the names there. I know you've primarily been on the dental, the dental side. Maybe just tell us a little bit about kind of your story.
So yeah, I basically just lucked into the industry out of college. So got hired by Johnson & Johnson Dental Care, who those of you online may know the brands NuPro, Delton, Pitt and Fisher Sealant. Johnson & Johnson had a full oral care line. They just happened to divest most of their oral care line in 1989, and that ended up at Dentsply. So I ended up, I went to bed a Johnson & Johnson employee and woke up the next morning a Dentsply employee. So moved through different roles within Dentsply, and then we had the opportunity. Myself and Chuck Jackson, who was the chief financial officer for Dentsply Koch at the time, we're about the same age, and he ran operations for some time. So we decided, instead of working for the man the rest of our lives, maybe we go out and take a chance out in the industry someplace. And we happened on this company called Omni Oral Pharmaceuticals. Happened to be focused on prevention. Happened to be also the first ever tooth whitening company. 1989, they hit on this little concept called tooth whitening, and launched the first ever tooth whitener, but lost that market to Discus and Ultradent with a gel. Omni had a bottle whitener that didn't stay well in the bottom tray, and the others came out with a gel that stayed in both trays, and boom, the market was lost. So the company had a little problems, needed some help. Chuck and I joined the company. After a year, we bought the company. It was the first ever stannous fluoride company in the world. So they worked with the Dr. Ira Shannon in Houston, Texas, and they stabilized the first ever stannous fluoride, which is now the base for most of the largest brands of toothpaste in the United States. Crest and Procter & Gamble, both of those companies have a base in stannous fluoride, and we were the first to do that.
Okay, great. Awesome. Well, so we kind of want to get into prevention with you because as far as I know, of the people that I've talked to, you're very educated in kind of the prevention side, especially from the dental side and on the ortho. I mean, I've been in the industry for 18 years and there's not a lot of talk about prevention. And I know you and I were chatting and, prevention for the ortho patient is really needed, but really coordination between the orthodontist and the dental home for that patient. There's not a lot of coordination that goes on. So are you able to just kind of frame this problem maybe for us and why should we care about this on the, the ortho side or specifically the ortho and peds connectivity side?
Yeah, and I think too, like with a business mind, just because our listeners are listening in because they're trying to get that business aspect. So how can prevention not only be good for the patient, but also good for the clinician in our business and monetize it? Gotcha.
Understand. So first of all, the reason we got to this point, Davin, is we helped each other with a webinar. Yeah. And it was an ortho-focused webinar. And on that webinar, a couple of the people that were on talked about a prevention plan. And you asked me about the prevention plan. So I've been in this prevention side of the business for 27 years, something like that. And the logic of having ortho patients are immediately classified, no matter what caries risk assessment tool you use, they're immediately at least a moderate risk for caries. And if they come in with poor oral hygiene, Dr. Ashley, I assume quickly they become a high risk for caries.
Yes.
So when you said a prevention plan, I got to tell you, in 27 years, I don't know that I have many people that have a prevention plan between the dental home and the orthodontic office. So frankly, I thought something changed in the last 27 years. So I reached out to some friends in the industry, friends who, like you, Dr. Ashley, have a combined pediatric ortho practice, a DSO friend who's got 8 offices, I believe, in the state of Louisiana, and said, has something changed? Is there coordination between the two? And nobody said there is. So really nothing's changed, right?
Yeah.
So we know there should be coordination. It just doesn't happen as much as it should.
Well, and not only are we lacking preventative plans, but a lot of orthodontists, we've just kind of stopped even sending out cavity clearances. It's just kind of become a little bit fast paced in the ortho. And so I feel like there's a lot less focus on prevention.
Yep. So as we're talking about this, or we were emailing back and forth on it, It's a real opportunity. It's a real need. To a person, the people that I kind of surveyed said, no, it doesn't happen, but it should. Got any ideas? So I think the time is right.
Let's talk about it.
Well, and Davin, you gave me a quote this week about a percentage of how many pediatric offices are actually doing orthodontics in their office. So and it was quite high. What was that stat?
Yeah. So actually, we're going to be probably on the next podcast talking a lot about the statistics and stuff. And so I've just started digging into this. But it was in the 70% range.
Yeah,
in terms of the number of pediatric dentists that are doing comprehensive orthodontics.
Yeah. Not just expanders or some limited 2x4s like I thought, which is mind blowing. I think us as orthodontists, we think that GPs are stealing our business. But I really think that there's a lot more synergy happening between pediatric dentist and orthodontist. But yet there's still this lack of still communication. Like in our office, I'm a solely ortho there without the pediatric dentist. And then he shows up when I'm not there, and still there, even though we're under the same roof, sometimes there could even be a lack of communication. Having the two specialties still under the same roof, they're kind of run as two separate practices.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is only going to become more and more prevalent. And so, Kevin, I mean, you know, that webinar that you mentioned earlier was the first time I had heard really of a prevention plan and so I kind of brought it from the other side, like, oh, well, what is this that I've never heard of? So I think it's great if this is something that everybody knows we need and should happen. But if not very many people are doing it, I'd love to hear, you know, your thoughts from kind of being an expert in this area on what should be happening in the different scenarios that orthodontists and dental professionals find themselves.
So it's complex, right? So you get into an urban area, you probably have a saturation of pediatric dentists, right? So if you're in your Orange County, you can have pediatric dentists everywhere. So the coordination, everywhere. And from a revenue standpoint, Dr. Ashley, as you mentioned, pediatric practices are formed on prevention, right? They don't have CEREC machines in, they're not doing same-day crowns.
Yeah.
Bread and butter is hygiene and fluoride varnish applications, prevention.
Exactly.
Some simple ditch and fill restorations, glass ionomers.
Sealants.
Sealants. They're not big into any of the restorative care, right? They try to, they want to keep the kids out of that. But then when you move into rural areas where there aren't pediatric dentists or they're not as plenty, like I've got a home up in northern Wisconsin, north of Wausau, Wisconsin, which is probably a 4-hour drive from any of the state borders. There's maybe 2 or 3 pediatric dentists, I'm guessing, in that area. So if you're in one of those areas, the general dentist becomes the pediatric dentist, becomes a referrer to the orthodontist, and they may head 4 hours into Minneapolis for their ortho appointments, right? And then they come back home to the general office. So how do you monetize that? It's prevention. I mean, there are codes out there from fluoride varnish to if early lesions are starting with prevention. There's a new D1355 code on prevention that could be things like Curodont. So there's plenty of.
And are these codes actually getting reimbursed? Because I find as a business owner, I'm like, we want to put in the caries, prevention risk, and all these things. Well, no insurance companies are even providing them. So we've stopped even adding them because it's just getting denied. And then it's just kind of a waste on our admin side.
Yeah. And we understand that as a company being one of the biggest challenges you have. That's why as a model in our business, we have preventive care consultants that go out and help, talk to you and talk to your staff about how to handle this. For example, yes, some of the office or some of the plans, fluoride varnish for kids, especially under 16 is fairly common. Sealants for kids is fairly common. Some of the other stuff for adults and adults in ortho, not as common. Right. We frame it with offices, and we help them have these motivational interviewing conversations with the patient along the lines of, yes, just understand your dental insurance plan is a capitation plan. It's limited in the care. And since you're in here for ortho, you've probably tapped it out for the year. Right. So even if insurance covers it, it's probably not going to cover a whole lot of it. And like car insurance doesn't cover your wipers, doesn't cover your tires, doesn't cover your preventive services on your car, the oil changes. Healthcare insurance doesn't, for many of the things, cover prevention. So in dental, especially, in many cases, doesn't cover prevention. So expect that it's not going to. So your choice is to do the prevention, or if you decide not to do the prevention, it becomes a hole. That's a whole different. And now the insurance might kick in for half, but now you're into restoration, 2 surface filling, a crown, endo, and now you're into the big dollars. So we help offices have that conversation with the patient. And yes, are they going to be 100% successful? No, but.
So our strategy at our office, because we really are into prevention, is doing an in-house preventative plan. And maybe that's kind of what you're going to talk about. So I'm very interested to hear what your strategy was. For our office, we offer a preventative plan. Now, I wish I had the stat. I need to ask my COO what the stat is. Not a lot of people purchase it. And to me, it is a amazing deal. And so it just kind of demonstrates how parents until there's the problem, they're not really investing in that preventative care. So for our office, we have a preventative plan. We offer it to every pediatric patient that is either high risk or a braces patient. It's $425 annually, which I think is a great deal for everything that we include. So we include sealants on all primary teeth, their first SDF application on any incipient lesions, 2 extra cleanings, so they're doing it on their 3-month recall, any 2 extra varnishes, and any necessary x-rays, and then the 2 exams in addition to what they're so a lot comes with it for $425. And like I said, I wish I came better prepared with that stat, but it's not often purchased.
Do you categorize? Do you use so there are caries risk assessment CDT codes that popped up, I think, in about 2016.
Okay.
So there's a DO601, DO602, and DO603. So they're low, moderate, and high risk for caries. It sounds like, for most of the plans, when you're O2, when you're moderate risk, it's every 6 months. It's guidance on diet. It's fluoride varnish every 6 months. You're at a moderate risk. That would be every ortho patient. But when they start getting into the higher caries risk in 0603, it sounds like that's where the plan, probably, if I was advising an office, and I'm not a dentist, I would advise that would be, I think what you've penned out is a great program. And it's probably for the high-risk patient. And most high-risk patient or programs in Canberra, in caries assessment by risk assessment, go to 4 appointments a year and 4 applications of varnish and guidance and counseling and oral health instructions and sealants. So I think that's a great program.
Yeah, I just need to figure out how to translate it better to parents. Maybe I need to say okay, here's the cost typically out of pocket of 2 fillings. Here's the cost of our preventative plan, which we're sealing every primary teeth in addition to everything else that's offered. So, I think it's a really great plan. We probably just need to be selling it and marketing it better.
Do you know what
in your practice, are you doing that? Or is it do you have hygienists within your practice or assistants that are responsible for those communications? Or is that only you?
So I'm the orthodontist. So these conversations are primarily happening on the pediatric days with our pediatric dentist. And so, it's mainly sold. We have one hygienist that's a floater, that's doing most of our braces recall patients and then scaling, popping over and scaling as needed. So we have RDAs, one hygienist in the office, and then our pediatric dentist. So it really falls on all of their shoulders to start the conversation. And then the pediatric dentist to kind of sell it home of, hey, we recommend the 3-month cleaning. And then we have a SoCo saver plan. A lot of parents are paying for that. So that's, I think that's $100 less. And that just includes 2 extra cleanings for them. And so a lot of them are not wanting to spend the extra $100 for the sealants and any SDF. So that's kind of the main difference between our in-house plan and then our preventative plan. But we do sell a lot of the in-house SoCo plans, either for patients that have HMOs and they want to come to our office because we only accept PPO, or for those that want to do the 3-month recalls. And that's just an additional plan that they're purchasing on top of their insurance that they currently have.
Okay.
So, Dr. Ashley, when you say that you've had some issues with acceptance of this, I mean, is it mostly, do you know, is it mostly the patient doesn't want to spend the money, or is it mostly like an education, they don't understand the value that's being wrapped up into that?
I think a lot. I think it's a lot goes into it. So we're in Orange County. I consider myself a scrunchy mom. We have a lot of crunchy moms. So it's funny. They will buy Invisalign and I'll put attachments on their teeth, but then they don't want to put sealants on their teeth because of the added toxins. And so, or they want to do more research about what's in the sealant material. And so we'll get a little bit of pushback with sealants because they want to do more due diligence if they've never heard about it before, if they didn't have them as a kid. And then same with SDF. It's a high percentage of fluoride. And so to me, again, I think it's a little bit of like, we're getting educated through social media now and like fear mongering, and parents will hear calcification of the pineal gland and then they'll hear silver diamine fluoride. No, I can't have fluoride. But then they'll wait for it to be a big cavity and maybe a root canal. And there's other, obviously there's chemicals in all dental products. So I think that there's just a lot of resistance to things that they deem maybe, yes, preventative, but more toxic, I guess. Well, we're in a special demographic.
Well, that's a great, so this is a great conversation. And Kevin, I want to hear what you have to say here because, I grew up in a, 80s, and my mom, she had all these dental problems. And then there was this, hey, fluoride is in the water and that's a really great thing. And then, in the last few years, and especially with some of the political figures like RFK and some of the stuff that he's been talking about. And now it seems very much in the conversation with friends that I have that aren't even in the industry about fluoride and other, medications and chemicals and all this kind of stuff. So what can you kind of frame this conversation on where we are now with people and the hesitancy to fluoride and why? And then I know, Dr. Ashley, you've got some stuff that you're doing in the practice. So I kind of want to hear the conversation on where we're at. And Kevin, would you mind kind of just throwing that out there for us?
Well, to Dr. Ashley, you're not alone with the parents that are coming in and talking about natural solutions and questioning, this is, probably the biggest cause of all that. I can research anything at my fingertips, and that's a problem. Davin, the fluoride hesitancy that you're talking about, that could be a 4-hour podcast by itself, right? So,
sure.
So it happens. I mean, it happens all the time. We try to assist offices during staff meetings and talk to them about it. For example, silver diamine fluoride. We're the ones that launched it in the United States. My granddaughter was the first ever patient for it in the United States. A month before we launched it, she had 3 large lesions and faced sedation. And instead of sedation, I talked to the dentist who was recommending the treatment plan and said, here's this option. The dentist talked to their instructor at University of North Carolina and said they were using silver nitrate. Go ahead and use it. And Olive got three drops onto 3 spots. And that's the only care that she's ever had on those teeth to this point. She's 12 years old now. So we teach the subject. So yes, silver diamine fluoride, 25% silver, 5% fluoride, a high amount of fluoride, but that one drop has as much fluoride as a properly fluoridated glass of water. So we're going to apply 1 drop onto that lesion patient or mom, and that's going to be about your child probably having a soda at McDonald's later with the fluoridated water that's in our community. It's a very small amount targeted to this one disease area. So we try to help with those conversations because sometimes you're just never going to overcome it. You're not going to overcome it, especially in the world that we live in today. But if you come at them with facts and care, and as you said, there aren't many options, right? So if that progresses into the root, there aren't many options. And the options are very, very costly. The whole conversation of fluoride hesitancy, I think we could touch on that, but that would that's a long conversation. Happy to handle it.
Yeah, I think that the real concern is just, like I said, people are getting educated on social media. So just a little background on our office. We have recently offered a fluoride-free varnish, I'm just going with silver diamine fluoride. We're using FIG, the nanohydroxyapatite varnish that they've come out with in the more recent times, just because so many of our patients were denying fluoride. It was 40% of our patients, and that is a very drastic amount. And so for me, I'm like, okay, we need to be offering some type of remineralizing agent, because if 40% of our patients are saying no to this treatment, then they're not getting any topical varnish. And, not only from a preventative standpoint, but from a business standpoint, if 40% of 500 of the patients that you see that month is denying their varnish, and say that we get $25 of varnish per patient, that's very it's like Delta fees. That's $5,000 lost of production that it literally takes us 2 seconds to paint on the teeth. And so I think that that's a real conversation that providers are also feeling, is if you live in a demographic like we do, where the demographic is educated, they're also doing their own preventative stuff at home, they are just really not open to fluoride. And then it's, we're having a loss in our business as well from a very simple procedure.
Totally understand it.
And Kevin, I'd like to dig in a little bit to the hesitancy piece, because should people be hesitant? And they're being educated, like Dr. Ashley said, on social media. And, is there a case where the alternative to fluoride is a good way to go? But is there a case when hey, this is actually something that we need to educate better about where fluoride's coming from and what's the act? I don't know. So I'm truly asking, from that perspective.
So let me try to frame how we got to this point of sitting right now in the country of where we sit with fluoride hesitancy, because it's swollen up, right? Yeah. So we've seen some efforts to pull fluoride out of the water over the last couple of years, and it kind of percolated up, and we didn't know where it was coming from. But we now understand that there's just been a greater movement on the anti-fluoridation side to try to cause some issues out there in the marketplace. So what happened this past year, a couple of complex things, and you could Google it to find out a little bit more, but the National Toxicology Program, the NTP it's called, which is an interdiscipline, 3 disciplines within FDA, I believe, the CDC and another group. So this intergroup did an analysis of, rightfully so, right, for pregnant women and children, are we getting too much fluoride at this point between communal water supplies and food processed with water and teas and drinks at power drinks and aids and things made with
formula, cooking with the water. I'm pregnant also, by the way, Kevin. So this is a little bit more sensitive to me because I am a vulnerable population right now. So yeah. Well, thank you.
So they went at this and looked at it, right? So they came to a conclusion by looking at some studies, and the studies were foreign-based studies. They were in Canada, Mexico, Iran, I think, Pakistan, and they looked at some studies, and they came out with a conclusion. This group did that. I think their exact quote was, "I had at higher levels of fluoride exposure, such as from drinking water containing more than 1.5 milligrams of fluoride per liter, associated with lower IQ in children." Well, you make that statement that there's a lower IQ in children, guess what? Mom's eyebrows just went up, right?
Yeah.
So now when you dig deeper into that, all medicines have a dose relationship, right? U.S. water fluoridation is at 0.7 parts per million. These studies were found were 1.5, were in areas where natural fluoridation was happening twice the amount of U.S. water fluoridation. I understand that the drop in the IQ was 4 points. These were IQs measured in foreign countries. And I just listened to a podcast the other day of a neurobiologist. I don't understand what that degree is, but I'm going to guess it's probably better than my degree, that said 4 points in any IQ test is within a margin of error. They just didn't put a whole lot into that. So it wasn't a cause relationship study. It was, this is something to look at. So they were not recommending pulling fluoride out of the drinking water. They were saying it should warrant some more studies and there should be more research into this. Well, that, if I'm an anti-fluoridationist, I take that news and I trumpet to the world, right? And I'm going to probably scare a lot of people with that news, especially with the quote of lower IQ in children. But the good news is press took that and ran with it. And a good amount of that press was was defending water fluoridation through that time and to this point. It's all noise now. So the question is, what's going to come out the end? And we're still early in this whole world. Water fluoridation started in 1945. They did a study back then of the children. They looked at children before water fluoridation started in a cohort of about, I think, 35,000 kids after water fluoridation started, and found a 60% decrease in dental caries of the kids that were fluoridated from the Grand Rapids, Michigan water experiment. So if you pull fluoride out of the cumulative water supply that 72.5% of Americans get right now, we better start graduating some restorative dentists, because we're going to see some restorations in children's and adults not that far off. Calgary found that in Canada. They pulled fluoride out of the water in Canada and they're putting it back in. They did that, I think, in 2010, and they found a rise in the caries rates of the kids in Calgary, and an increase in the number of ER visits for dental pain in Calgary, and they're putting fluoride back in the water. So it's a complex conversation. I think if the anti-fluoridations have some ammunition to scare people with right now, unfortunately.
If you're like most orthodontic and pediatric dental practices, you're probably struggling with oral hygiene compliance, observation conversions, and an increase of shoppers, especially among young patients and their families. In my practice, Wild Smiles makes converting observation and phase 1 patients easy. Young patients and their shopping families value a personalized experience. When I first added Wild Smiles to my practice, they made inventory and reordering easy, and they even led our team through simple instructions on integrating Wild Smiles into our existing systems. So we saw an immediate success. Grow your early orthodontic patient population with Wild Smiles to combat boring traditional braces and expensive phase 1 aligners. Check out wildsmilebraces.com/doctors to choose the customizable Easy Start Kit that's right for your practice. Mention code KiDDS to save 10% off your first order.
Yeah, I think that the issue, because, I'm a mom, I'm also a dental provider, and I'm also pregnant. So I take a lot more into consideration just because I have small children, that, we're having a lot more than just 1 liter of water a day with formula and all of that sort of things. And now I'm being pregnant, I have to think about the systemic effects and things like that. So for me, it's hard to justify mass medicating a population when maybe only a subset of the population truly needs it, right? So, when I first graduated dental school, I went to a more rural area, worked in a Medi-Cal office, and the way that I treatment planned in that office is much different than how I treatment plan in my high income private practice, right? Because you have to assume that those patients are not going to come back for their 6-month cleaning. And that's unfortunate realization, but you're lucky if you're going to see them in the next 6 months. You may not see them for the next 3 years. So your treatment plans are going to be a little bit more aggressive. When you see an incipient lesion, you may not trust diet and prevention and those sorts of things, because the child may not get it. And so I feel like, fluoridation in water is great for that type of community. And then where there's a community with maybe higher SCS, the parents are very informed and very careful with the diet of their children, prevention, things like that. I think that that's where us as mothers struggle a little bit more, because it's like, okay, we're getting so many sources of fluoride that maybe we don't need the topical version, because we're already getting it in our drinking water. We're already getting it in our dental products. We're already getting it in all of these mass sources. So yeah, it's definitely a complex conversation, just because I think I felt different being a provider and now being a new mother. Anytime that they throw out lower dental IQ, it's to scare us.
Yep. Yeah, and it's important for everybody to understand fluoride occurs naturally. It's in all drinking water, sometimes at very low amounts, but it's in all water. So if you pull out, the optimal amount, which is, augmented to 0.7 milligrams per liter, which is the current standard, and you pull that out, there's still going to be fluoride in the water. and it changes seasonally, right? So when we were Omni Oral Pharmaceuticals, we had a home fluoride test, and we'd find that in the spring, when the water is percolating through the ground, it picks up more minerals to go into the groundwater to be then pumped up to a well. Fluoride levels went up. So fluoride, you can't pull it out of the water supply. That would be billions of dollars to try to take fluoride out of all communal water supplies in the United States. It's just not possible. The question is whether or not communal water supply, the augmentation for 72% of the population, should continue. I personally believe it's beneficial. And if people decide that they don't want it, they can filter the water with the right type of filter, or they can go to bottled water, which does not add fluoride, but it might have it from the source that they're getting from.
Yeah.
So you'd have to test it really.
So, and I think that's a really interesting point because, I think a lot of times when I have conversations with people about fluoride in the water, what they're talking about is the added fluoride. And that's what they talk about. And I don't know that they even realize that fluoride is naturally occurring, and that those kinds of conversations aren't really happening. It's just the soundbite that they hear. And so I think as a dental professional that's patient facing, there's kind of a heavy load to bear to be able to be educated enough to have the conversation around with your patient around the nuances of the conversation.
Yep. So to go back to something that you were talking about, Dr. Ash, I totally agree with you. So I think our conversations need to change because of the world we're in right now, right? So in 1945, you probably could count on your hand how many toothpastes were within a store. Now you go and there's an entire aisle, and you stand there and stare, and it's whitening, some without fluoride. There's charcoal. It's hard to kind of figure it out. So it's more complex. Now you have rinses. You have over-the-counter rinses that have fluoride in it. You have prescription fluoride. You have hydroxyapatite. You have something like FIG that is a nanohydroxyapatite. I think it is at least a HAP varnish. So you have to kind of think about that. So from I would say if I was advising an office, I understand from a business standpoint why offering the FIG is the right thing to do, right? There's a financial revenue side to that. And it's allowed.
It costs double, but if you are gaining acceptance, then it's worth that double cost.
Totally get it. Now, if I had somebody who was a DO603 and was caries active, I don't know that I'd be using the nanohydroxyapatite varnish that has, to my knowledge, no data on efficacy of use. So I don't know of any studies that have ever been done with a non-fluoride varnish that show any efficacy. So theoretically, it might do it. But if I had an 0603, a high-risk patient, I would not be using a non-fluoride product on them. That's just me.
Yeah. I think it's hard. Right. It's hard when it comes to research because when we're quoting research, we want it to be high quality, meta-analysis, retrospective, right? But when these products are so new to the market, we don't have that data. So yeah, it is hard as the provider to kind of decide what is best for our patients. And I think for me, we're not a anti-fluoride office. We have fluoride in our products. We offer the silver diamine fluoride. Our glass ionomer is fluoride releasing. So we're not anti-fluoride. We're just giving more options to our patients because they're asking for it.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. I think you have to have the conversation with patients, and you better have options, right? What
are your thoughts on nanohydroxyapatite? Do you personally use it in any of your products?
We do. We have it in the varnish in a very small amount. We are working on products in that category. We want to have some proof around it. Now, to your point, to have that proof, to run a clinical trial right now in the United States, for example, in the world of fluoride varnish, right? So fluoride varnish is cleared by the Food and Drug Administration as a device for sensitivity. That's it. So your use of it for FIG or on fluoride application of fluoride varnish is all off label because the FDA has not cleared it as a drug. To do a drug trial would be probably somewhere in the range of $12 to $15 million to do a drug trial to prove fluoride varnish efficacy.
Right.
There's roughly, we really don't know the exact number because there's direct and distributor-based businesses, but there's probably roughly $60 to $80 million worth of fluoride varnish sold annually in the United States. Nobody's going to fund a $15 million 5-year trial when the annual profits from fluoride varnish equal with the trial cost. So we're never going to see that.
Yeah.
We're experiencing that right now with silver diamond fluoride. We had a drug trial paid for by the NIDCR that proved successful with our product. We're working with the Food and Drug Administration right now to seek clearance just to hand your data to the Food and Drug Administration for them to look at the data is about $4 million. It says that unless you've got a big product, you just can't take it through. So in the world of hydroxyapatite, you're never going to get drug approval on it. There are some arginine trials right now occurring in Europe of toothpaste with arginine and no fluoride. I think that shows promise. That study in the United States would roughly, I talked this summer to somebody who was with one of the big toothpaste companies. They said that study would run about $50 million in the United States. You can think about that when the U.S. toothpaste market is $3 to $4 billion, but I can tell you that our company can't think about anything like that. That's way up.
What goes, Kevin, into some of those costs? Like when you say the FDA, just to look at some stuff costs $4 million. I mean, what are we talking about? What are we paying for there?
Sounds like they're running a business themselves.
Well, they are. The Food and Drug Administration, as I understand it, and I'm no expert on this, but we were up on the Hill recently talking to an office, and a staffer who was ex-FDA was there and said, so there's a filing fee, right? So if you've got a new drug, any kind of drug, to hand it to the Food and Drug Administration is an annual fee to have them look at any drug, whether it's silver diamine fluoride or something for diabetes, right? It's $4 million right now as a current fee. Then you have an annual fee that's a drug program fee that once you're in the program, you must pay an annual drug fee. So, for example, if we went after the drug claim for silver diamine fluoride and we were successful, none of the devices probably would have to come off the market. So we'd be paying a $4 million fee and we'd be paying an annual fee, and our competitors would not have to do that. So if we had a fluoride varnish and we decided to go after the drug claim, they wouldn't pull the other 70 brands off the market potentially. So why would we do that? So that's just for the FDA to look at it. And as I understand it, that's how the FDA is funded. New drug applications, the U.S. taxpayers, for the most part, don't fund the employees at the FDA. The drug fees fund the employees. I think I'm right in saying that, at least some part of the budget. So if you're a small company, if you don't have a $100 million product or a drug, you're not going to get it funded. And you tell me what are $100 million products in dentistry. There are.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that seems like a huge obstacle to innovation even. Because if I have an idea and I can't prove that it's going to be worth $100 million, then I mean, I didn't really realize that on the FDA side as much. I mean, we do some stuff with the FDA, but not really. We're not funding studies and that kind of stuff.
So Kevin, say that you were me, you owned a pedo ortho office, and, maybe there's a lack of synergy currently going on between the two and prevention. What systems or programs would you tell me to implement?
Great question. So if you're in your practice, as you are, I think it'd be easier for you to coordinate that with your pediatric practice, because you could decide where you want the revenue to sit, right?
Right.
You want all the prevention to sit in the pediatric practice with all the active ortho patients. To me, that kind of makes sense, right? If I'm in a practice, pediatric practice where I do no ortho, but I've got kids coming in, and generally speaking, it's the older kids in my practice, right, that are going through some type of ortho into the teens, I would work out something with the referring dentist. But, frankly, how many referring dentists is that?
Yeah.
So that's a lot, right? So how do I have that one-on-one conversation with them all? I got to tell you, I haven't had a general dentist or pediatric dentist say that I'm worried about them capturing income from me. And I think some orthodontists, at least I think some orthodontists, are worried about that relationship with the referring office, that I did fluoride varnish on them, and I went to the insurance and hit the insurance, and I got that payment instead of the referring office. Now I got a problem with the referring office. Don't know if that's a common issue.
I would think that would be true. Am I wrong? I would be very hesitant if I didn't have pedo and I had strong referral sources. That's not the case for our practice. But I would not want to step on the referring office's toes and dip into the little reimbursement that we already get, right? That would be, I would believe, a way to piss off my referring office. And the ortho treatment is way more valuable to me than a little varnish reimbursement. So I would not touch that personally, but maybe I'm wrong.
So the question I would have then, is there room within your ortho fees to take the ortho fee up and do the prevention for nothing? I mean, a silver diamond fluoride is 60 to 70 cents a drop, and a varnish can be anywhere from 50 cents to $2.50, maybe $3. Can you take up prevention by $50 and just do the prevention for free, code it, but not bill it? And
I feel like that's like the strategy that everyone wants us to do, right? The people that are selling us the water flossers, the toothbrushes, that's always the solution is, hey, why can't you just put up your price $100 and then just throw it in? Well, the reality is that people are price shopping. The average ortho consumer is going to 3+ consults, and then they're reaching back and they want us to price match. So even if our standard fee was set higher, or we're contracted with insurances, so we have to bill what they currently have. So there's really no one paying cash fees in my office. We're subjected to PPO discounts, or we're price matching, or we're offering discounts. So the answer is yes, we could, but in actuality, financially, that doesn't really happen.
Yep. Then I think the option is to just do it, right? So for $1 to $2, rather than having that kid, that child or that patient have to be debracketed, which would be the final warning, right?
Right.
I assume that's close to the 2-minute warning at the end of the football game.
Yeah.
This is now crunch time, is just do it and not bill it. And perhaps report it, then is that then a call to the referring dentist to say, here's what I did? And I did it at no charge, but I would suggest you get them back in. I've tried to do everything I could from an oral health instruction standpoint. Our office has, but we're going to have to debracket unless. And would you then contact the the pediatric or general office?
I think if we didn't have pedo in my office and I was just a standalone ortho office, I would use that as a marketing strategy of, hey, I'm referring this patient back to you. I told them they need documentation that they got the varnish prior to their next visit. I will not see them until cleaning, whatever it is needs to be done. I think from a business perspective, one, you're showing that referral that I'm loyal to you. I'm sending the patient back. I'm giving you the revenue, and you're producing for them, because they always, whoever's referring, they always feel like, oh man, if I really added this up, how much I'm referring to you, and I'm getting no kickback here. And so that would be a strategy of how to, kind of give them a kickback of, hey, I'm not going to see this next patient until I have documentation that you have followed our preventative care or something like that.
I absolutely love that answer. So
yeah.
I love that. And again, I think that's back to when we have a conversation with a patient, it's not going to take one path, right? There's going to be a lot of forks in the road, and that's one of the forks in the road.
Yeah. I mean, I have patients that they'll show up to their ortho visit because, that's covered. They're paying their monthlies. And it's been 7 months. You've been telling them, hey, you need to get your wisdom teeth out, or hey, we can't keep progressing until you have this tooth lasered. But to them, that's just another bill. So they keep putting it off. And at some point, I have to put my foot down and be like, okay, we cannot have your next visit until this is achieved. And I think that maybe us as orthodontists, we need to take the preventative just as seriously as we are the surgical and lasering and those procedures as well.
And have you done anything with povidone iodine?
No. Educate me. I don't know what that is.
Povidone iodine is used often, any kind of wound. So if when I was growing up, 66 years old, I remember seeing yellow skin on
Yep.
lesions on people. And so a lot of pediatric dentists use it post-surgical.
Oh, okay.
In the OR, because it knocks down strep mutans, lactobacilli, and it knocks down the bugs in the mouth, and it does it substantively. It lasts a long time.
Forgive me. I think our pediatric dentist uses this after tongue ties lasering. Yes.
Right.
This is sounding familiar.
Yep. So we've actually moved into this. We were educated on this by a friend up in San Francisco, Dr. Jeremy Horsekeeper, who does a lot of lectures on silver diamond fluoride. He was with CareQuest, and they leaned into povidone iodine a lot. So they were silver diamond fluoride, fluoride varnish, povidone iodine. And what they do is either cotton swab soak the mouth with povidone iodine for a high-risk kid at the appointment, and then instruct them how to do that at home. We've actually launched an ampule that has a small amount in it, so you know how much you're getting. Paint it on the mouth, and you send the child home with 5 applications after to depending on the risk level. Might be a monthly application, might be once every 2 months. It's up to the dentist or the physician to set that amount, and it's just a very strong antimicrobial, antibacterial. So the kids who are young can't rinse with chlorhexidine gluconate. You're not going to have to rinse with Listerine, something that is a low frequency, high painted on. It's actually it sounds like it tastes terrible. It really is pretty benign taste. And there were some studies done years ago of the combination therapy of povidone iodine covered by fluoride varnish that showed an incremental impact on caries behavior in the patients after application. So we're actually soon launching a combination kit that has povidone iodine and fluoride varnish in it together.
And what microbials does that iodine target? Because I'm honestly unsure. Is it targeted, or is it really just a generalized bringing down the bacterial load?
We call it broad spectrum.
Broad spectrum. Okay. Yeah, we're doing a lot of salivary testing in our office, and kind of figuring out, trying to customize our care, and kind of prescribing. We have a lot of kids that are having like even black staining on their teeth. So figuring out, is it the high iron in their diet? Is there chromogenic bacteria? Like you have a higher amount of a certain bacteria, and then recommending probiotics that kind of target whatever they have high in their system. So we're really trying to come up with as much customized care as possible.
Very nice.
Well, I think that is a huge thing, that as we look at the ortho and the pedo practice coming together and looking at ways to create this customized care at every level, because so many people, when they're shopping, and Dr. Ashley, when you're talking about their shopping and they're price sensitive, I think they're price sensitive. They're also experience sensitive as well. So who's going to be providing the best value with the best experience with doing this work to say, okay, we're actually doing the work to create this customized experience on all these different levels. And so I think as we talk through the prevention plan, which is something that the orthodontist doesn't, from my 18 years of time in the industry, it's not something that orthodontists spend a lot of time thinking about. And so this has been a really great conversation. And Kevin, I mean, I think you're right. We should have you back and do another 4 hours of all kinds of different stuff. I've enjoyed it.
Well, thank you so much, Kevin, for your time.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Glad to be here, and great to meet both of you.
Yeah, it was great. It was great to meet you earlier this year. And I feel like we're fast friends, and I can just feel like I always learn a lot from you. Dr. Ashley, will you tell everybody how they can continue to kind of lean into the community that we're building?
Yeah, so we have a Facebook group, and it's for pediatric dentist, orthodontist, or if you have a dual specialty like myself. But it's basically like business-minded individuals that we are trying to think outside of the box, customize our patient care from experience to treatment plans, and but also with the business in mind, business focused. So if that speaks to you, we would love for you to join our conversation. You could post cases, you could post any issues that is arising in your practice. there's a lot of support out there for orthodontists and not as much for the dual practice or for pediatric dentists. So we're trying to fill that void. And then we'll just put the link below for that Facebook group.
Great. Awesome. Thanks. And Kevin, if people wanted to kind of learn more about what you guys are doing over at Elevate Oral Care, where would they go?
ElevateOralCare.com. So we have a team right now of 27 field sales based preventive care consultants, most of them hygienists, who cover major markets across the United States. We're still a growing company. We believe that when we get to about 55 representatives, we'll probably have the country covered. So we have, about half the major markets in the United States covered. As we grow, we fund new people, but they go into offices and communicate all of this stuff into the office. So there's a place there where you can request a staff meeting. Where we don't have a current person, we have a hygienist, Melinda, who handles staff meetings via Zoom. We're AGD accredited, provide education. We do a balanced non-marketing CE course for you, so we can provide CE to the office. And on our site, there are webinars. We probably have somewhere around 40 webinars now on all the topics that we've touched on, from fluoride varnish to silver diamond fluoride to povidone iodine to ortho, that you were the second last presentation we did. So there are free webinars on there that are free CE as well. So ElevateOralCare.com.
Gotcha. Yeah. And we'll make sure.
Thank you so much, Kevin.
Yeah. We'll make sure to include a link in the show notes too. So Kevin, thanks so much, Dr. Ashley. And another great episode. Thanks so much for the conversation, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Are you looking to grow practice revenue, improve patient retention, and enhance overall practice success in 2025? Join our faculty of leading practitioners, all experts in the crossover of orthodontics and pediatric dentistry, at one of 3 hands-on courses designed to equip orthodontist and pediatric dentist with essential knowledge and tools to establish and implement a successful Phase 1 bracket program to keep more patients in-house and grow your practice. Participants will be given a comprehensive roadmap to build a robust early treatment program and will be able to apply these strategies to their practice immediately. Whether you're looking to implement an early orthodontic treatment program for the first time or enhance your current offerings, this course provides the tools and knowledge to help you grow your practice and provide top quality care for younger patients. For more information on locations and dates, and to sign up, visit specialtyappliances.com/course/registration. Registration is open, and these in-office courses have limited space that will fill fast. So more information can be found again at specialtyappliances.com/course/registration.
Thank you for listening to the KiDDS Biz Podcast. We hope you gained valuable insights to elevate your practice. If you enjoyed the episode, please take a moment to leave us a review. It really helps us grow. Want to dive deeper into our community? Join the KiDDS Biz Facebook group for discussions, resources, and networking with fellow professionals. Until next time, keep striving for success in your ortho and pediatric practice.